My name is Jennifer Hook. I'm a cinematographer in Los Angeles, and I have a company called By the Hook. I studied film studies in North Carolina at UNC Wilmington, and then I moved out to LA about 12 years ago. I did a internship at a casting company, and then I ended up working at Film Tools. And while I was there, that was how I ended up meeting people who wanted to find somebody just to come onto a low-budget project, AC, and I kind of learned as an AC and as a gaffer and just worked my way up, meeting people there and working my way onto new productions. The project that I did at the start of the pandemic was called 25 Cents Per Minute. That was a feature film which we shot in 11 days on a budget of $25,000. And it was as hard as it sounds. But we had a really good team, and we worked hard, and we got it done. I think Tokina found a good balance between having the lens not be, too sharp, too clinical. It doesn't look really digital. It has a little bit of a more organic feeling, but it still is sharp and in focus when you need it to be. And then just, the technical things like as far as chromatic aberration and that kind of stuff, you're not really seeing that. It's a workhorse of a lens, it's reliable and it gets the job done.
Hi, I'm Horacio Martinez. I'm a cinematographer from Venezuela based in Los Angeles. And I have around 5 years of experience shooting as an active cinematographer. For my profession, I'm adaptable to the point that I can do movies, music videos, commercials. I'm consider myself sort of like a chameleon when it comes to whatever project I have in front of me. I need to adapt and make it basically make it a reality. It's what I love. It's what I grew up with movies ever since I was a kid. I used to be a former musician. I used to be a film composer, so I transitioned to cinematography when I moved here to LA. But movies have been all around my life ever since I was a kid, and I'm super happy that I can do this for a living right now. The main characteristic of my style is I consider that I always try to find a naturalistic, organic look when it comes to trying. I mean, it depends on the script, of course. The script is king when it comes to trying to figure out what vision and what's the objective of the project. So a cinematography, having a style, it's something that it's super subjective when it comes to it. But if I need to find a word for it, I would try to find naturalistic and organic. I work with the Cinema Vistas and the Vista Ones. I work with both. I consider one of my best works, basically shot on the Cinema Vistas. They help me a lot because of how fast they are. Also night interiors or even the day exteriors and the sharpness all around of a picture, they help me a lot especially because directors, with the directors that I work, they tell me I don't want that soft look. I want this modern look. That doesn't mean the soft is wrong, but sometimes when directors nowadays, they want to make it look sharp and basically modern. The Tokina Vistas have been a huge help.
My name is Enrique Bencomo. I'm based in Mexico, and I'm a filmmaker and DP and director. I come from independent cinema. I've done both jobs, DP and directing a lot of the times. So I would say that at least 14 years doing it. I always done little short films with my brother, but once I read Film Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez, I said, okay, I'm going to do a film. And I actually did a film with a little small Canon camera, and I actually went to festivals. I think it was a pretty good turnout for the circumstances, and that's how I got into filmmaking. Right now, I shoot every kind of project. For example, I was shooting a docuseries on food, then I was shooting a horror series, then I was shooting documentary pieces, and next week I'll be shooting editorial fashion films, so I kind of do all over the place. I think lenses depend on what you're doing, obviously. It's a tool for every kind of job, specifically the Tokinas. I think what I love about the Tokinas is there's a lot of great range of what I do. So I have the Vista ones that I use for more, if you can say, I hate the word cinematic, and I have the zooms, the 25, 75, the 50, 35, 135. I use for documentary a lot. So it kind of depends for every job, it depends on kind of the lenses you have to use and adapt. What I like about the Tokina zooms is that they're not like this kind of particular lens that you see, oh, that's this lens, because it doesn't have like this bokeh or this flare that is very representative. So it's kind of a, once you don't notice perfectly, I think it's better. It's like Roger Deakins says, like, if you notice the cinematography, it's something wrong with the job because they didn't do the job right. So I think with the Tokina that fits because you're not like, wow, this image in the documentary, this image is amazing, this is a Tokina. You never go like that because it's not this, it doesn't draw attention to itself. It's more of a passive companion you have the whole trip. So regarding the flare and the distortion and the bokeh, I think they're perfect because they're not so characteristic that you would identify the lens immediately.
My name is Tony Johansson. I'm a freelance DP based in LA. I shoot mainly 90% documentary work. My dad was a still photographer when I grew up, and he also had a store selling camera stuff. So it kind of a natural, I get to try out a lot of toys. That's how it started. Then local TV was kind of where I really got started. So now I primarily shoot documentary films and documentary series. Like I would say 90% is documentary, 10% commercial. So what I like about the look of the Tokina lenses is that it's fairly clean, but it has something that kind of makes it fun or interesting. It pairs well with a lot of other lenses. It's easy to mix and match, which I really like, but they're not boring. I think the 25-75 lens is physically a beautiful lens, and it's also really kind of lightweight, doesn't weigh too much, it's not big. The other two zoom lenses are much bigger, I feel. I think the 50-135 for handheld was rather difficult and heavy for a longer period of time. That's why we used it a lot on car and stuff like that. But the 25-75 for doc work, that's perfect.
My name is Andrew Johnston. I'm a director of photography. Been in the industry for about 10 years now. Still freelance, but I have different, crews and different production companies I work with, but still freelance. Now, I'd say about 80% of my work is music video. I went to film school, so I thought, I'm just going to shoot movies, and then basically I got a job at an ad agency, so I did commercials for 3 years, and then started working with Comcast and did those for 3 or 4 years, and I liked it. Like I liked providing for myself and in the industry, and so that was really exciting at first. But then I realized I don't know if this is exactly what I want to do. I'm more drawn to creative, stylized kind of lighting and projects, and commercials for me was always like, did we get the smile? Is it good? Did we get the product? Does it look good? Okay, great, cut, and move on. So I never really got that, that certain thing in my brain didn't get itched, so to speak. I experimented with a whole bunch of different, lenses, where, I don't know, some people get burned out from a look, and was kind of me. Like I don't want to name drop other lenses and stuff because it's not that kind of piece, but like I would use other lenses and eventually kind of just get tired of the look, or like see it where I'm like trying to execute the shot and it just kind of falls apart, or it's not really giving me that, there's a certain like magic I feel when I know the shot's gonna work. It's like I can't even explain it. It's just like it's a feeling. So when I see it and okay, this is gonna work, and I know it's gonna translate over. So when I stumbled upon the Tokina lenses, my thought was, okay, I need something more, something cinematic, obviously, but something that's has great skin tones. So there's a characteristic to it, but it's also clean, and I like when my lenses actually line up. Maybe it's because I'm coming from a commercial world a little bit, so I like when my lenses, my wides, my mediums, my close-ups, I like when they all kind of match. I use the 11-20 and then the Vista 18 a lot. I like to use wides because it really sets the character in the environment, and so for music videos, it's really that feeling of like, yeah, this is their world, so to speak, for the song. My favorite shoot that we did, it was a World War II inspired music video. So the artist is basically he's from the streets, so to speak, so from a tough neighborhood, and so we're showing the the relations of being in war, so to speak, to being raised in a tough neighborhood. So it was definitely a challenge. We had a week to pull the shoot together. So, and then the budget wasn't insane, but we wanted to make it feel, bigger than life. So I used the Tokinas, the 11 to 20, 25 to 75, and then the 50 to 135. And then I had 2 Vista lenses that I used as well. So I have a feature that I'm shooting in the fall, and told the director, I think the Vistas would actually really work well for this. He's kind of going for the Netflix look. So we're shooting on red, and then also shooting on the Tokina Vistas. And I'm really excited to see that, to showcase what the Vistas can do in a strictly narrative setting, especially because I've already used them with narrative style projects for music videos. So I'm excited to see that and, really show that off, because I think it's gonna do well. So, yeah.
I am Eduardo Ramirez. I am a cinematographer. I work in Los Angeles mostly and United States. I'm from Colombia, and I am part of the EADFC, the Colombian Society of Cinematographers. I am a local 600, and I am a very good follower of the Tokina brand. I think one of the jobs I've been known more for is Narcos, a TV show that was shot for Netflix. I was part of the DP group of cinematographer groups in the first season. And recently, my last feature film is right now on many film festivals. It's called Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson story. And it's a biopic on a great American singer called Mahalia Jackson. So those two are I think Tokina is one of the most, I just gotta call it beautiful glass. I call it beautiful glass. I like how they come built, and I think they're beautiful lenses. I really like the Japanese culture in general, and I think Tokina have a lot of that in the way they build the lenses, in the way they are constructed. Recently I have the opportunity to work with the Vista One lenses, and oh my God, the commercial come out beautiful. Like the rendition of color, the sharpness of the lenses was just, everybody was saying on set like, oh wow, this look amazing, and it was a funny commercial because it was a toy commercial, so it's a lot of colors, and tiny figures. So it's like you put the lens. We shoot it with Ari, with the Mini LF, and it's just a perfect connection. And it's not, I don't gonna call other brands, but other brands have a very clinical in and out focus, and I like to have that fall off. I like to have that connection and a little bit of sensitivity between my AC and the focus, so that create a more I would say a more peculiar or particular language on the cinematography. So I always look to Tokina when I'm doing my prep and when I'm doing my test. I own a Tokina lens. I own the 11 to 20 zoom. I think it's one of the most beautiful wide angle lenses. It come out beautiful build, and I still owning the first version. I don't have the second version, but I mean, it's just perfect. My directors like it, and they say, oh, do you bring that wide angles? It's so beautiful, So that is my, always call in wide angle when I come to work.
Hi, I'm Phil Holland. I'm a cinematographer based in Los Angeles, California, and I also shoot abroad. I do a lot of work for features, sometimes streaming series, exhibition content, stuff for tech companies. Do a lot of aerial cinematography from a helicopter, which is quite fun. I do a pretty broad variety of work. I took interest in the motion picture industry when I was very young. I grew up in California, in Southern California, where productions were being filmed regularly. The industry was smaller, so you could actually watch a movie being made if you were quiet and, they wouldn't kick you out kind of thing. So I got real curious, and I broke in when I was 17 by gripping and gaffing on a feature. And once I got a taste of that, I made a motivated effort to really get involved. So the interesting journey with the Tokina Cinema Vistas in particular for me, I was already doing large format digital, and at a time where there were not a lot of cinema lenses for that format size, the Red VistaVision format. Now, this 1 year, there was a void in the market, and I ended up making custom lenses and stuff, but I need a robust cinema set. And, you know, we're doing large scale imagery. And the Tokinas came out, and they were fast, they were high-speed lenses. They had a clean, modern look. They covered the formats I was after, and even more. And it really was this moment where I was able to, they're flexible enough that I can use them for a variety of applications. You know, I can put a human head on there, and I can make them look good. I really like that the lenses were really crafted without any compromises in the corners. A lot of other lenses cover this format, but the Tokinas were built to cover this format. So a lot of over-provisioning has led to a prettier background blur or out-of-focus blur, and that's been nice. And I've used them on the Alexa 65, I've used them on the Venice II, the Canon C500 Mark II, yeah, and they've been great. When I think about the character of the Tokina Cinema Vistas, I see more of a clean lens with character. The technical stuff is, you know, you have the telecentricity, you know, which actually, even beyond, you know, minimal focus breathing, actually has quite an impact of the focus roll-off in the bokeh, the out-of-focus image. And that's actually something that a lot of people don't really talk about too much. I really like to inspire a sense of awe and majesty and just epic moments. I want people to be able to watch my content over and over again. And I really put a lot of time into crafting a frame or telling a story with the camera, the lenses, everything, all the components coming together. So every kind of project's different, but I think the thing that I really enjoy doing is getting down to the essence of it and pushing forward something that can be enjoyed for a very long time to come.
My name is Dylan. I'm a director in Los Angeles, California. I moved from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I specialize in music videos, commercials. My career actually kind of started with using Tokina. You know, it was 2018. It was my first time directing. A DP friend of mine, I asked him if he would DP a project for me. He said yes. And so because the budget was smaller, we had to use what he had on hand. And the lenses he had on hand were the Tokina Vista Primes. And this was back in 2018, so it was the first release set of them. And, you know, me not really knowing what to expect, I trusted him fully. And you know, they naturally those lenses are very clean, and what we were going for in the video was something very ethereal and dreamy. So we decided to put on some filtration to give us that, and so we put on a TrueNet filter and a low-con filter. And you know, the video I'm talking about is the Wait music video for Roland Lewis. And you know, we knew we were going to be dealing with a lot of water and reflections and a lot of like fast moving reflections, and so we wanted that TrueNet filter to kind of give us these little sparkles throughout the video, and it worked really well. The focal lengths I tend to use are the 25, the 50. I think they're a good mid-range. For the work specifically that I'm trying to make, I'm really drawn to those focal lengths. Yeah, I think as a director, it's important to know plenty of facets, all the facets when it comes to filmmaking, especially cinematography. You know, cinematography they're your eyes. Without it, you don't really have a film. You just have beautiful people and locations and this story that needs to be told. So I think it's important for a director to know what's capable when it comes to cinematography. You know, and I think inspiration as a filmmaker comes from so many different directions. For me, I need stimuli. I need things around me. And so I'm very, very particular about where I put myself in life, because it influences everything about what drives me as a creator, as a filmmaker.
Hey, I'm Kadian Hall, and I'm based out of Los Angeles, California. In the industry, I operate as director of photography and camera operator. I also own a company called Juice Picture. We are a multidisciplinary creative ad studio with a plethora of direct-to-client brands that we serve to enhance their storytelling. So, in my previous career, I worked as an aerospace engineer. I went to school for engineering, and I also had a passion for filmmaking. So I'd reach out to DPs out of New York and Boston and kind of PA for them, seek mentorship. And at that time, maybe during undergrad around 2014, I had the idea that I really wanted to make some footprint into the film industry. I started in the Lumix camera system body, right? So started off, I bought my first Lumix G7 in undergrad. So that's a very small micro Four Thirds sensor. Then with my internship money, bought a GH4. And then following year or 2 years after that, GH5. So I pretty much was in that small sensor market for a while. And my style is working on projects where I can isolate a character. So that being shooting wide open with some diffusion, where I like the bokeh in the background and kind of, you know, you slap that 85 mil, where it's pretty much you, the talent, and whoever else is in that scene. Everything's completely blurred out, and it's very intimate. So the 11-20 Tokina currently possess, and it's a great lens for me as far as creating establishing shots that will get me into whatever the story is. I spend a lot of time in the travel tourism space, where I work with a lot of travel agencies where they'll send me out to beautiful places, beautiful resorts, and capture the moments. So with that wide field of view of the 11-20, you can capture so much information. I really like how it renders the skin of darker skin tones. Right? A lot of other lens manufacturers, you may have to implement filters to kind of compensate for darker skins. But with Tokina, I feel like all of the colors are pretty much neutral to many skin tones, and it doesn't really look like it doesn't fit.
My name is Josh Fields, and I'm a director, cinematographer, and editor, and I have a production company called Hatch 86 Films. Hatch 86 Films mainly does music videos and commercial work. We shoot a lot of hip-hop videos. We're located in the Bay Area, so we do a lot of local artists there, working as well as like with LA artists and all over the country. So as well as music videos and commercial work, I have done some reality TV work recently. Me and some friends shot a pilot for a reality TV show that's about growing marijuana. So I'm pretty excited for that. We used all three of the Tokina cinema zooms on that shoot. Well, typically I'm shooting on a red Gemini, and I found that works really well with the cinema zooms. Previously had a different brand of cinema zooms, and I wasn't really liking the image quality. They're actually vignetting a little bit. They weren't fully covering the Super 35 sensor. So I've liked these lenses on my Gemini so far. So I'd say my favorite Tokina lens is the 25-75. It's, you know, middle of the pack, so you get a nice wide, and you can also get a pretty good tight shot as well, and you know, everything in between. So there's even been some shoots where I don't even switch lenses at all. I don't use the 11-20, or I don't use the 50-135. I can get everything I need just on the 25-75. I remember the first time I put the 25-75 on my camera, my AC and my gaffer were both looking at the monitors, and they were just like blown away by the way it looked compared to what I had previously been looking, and they were, you know, like, oh, this is so creamy, I love this lens. So it was an immediate impact on my images when I switched over to these lenses.
My name is Daniela Milikowsky. I'm a freelance DP based in Baltimore. I've been shooting for about 10 years now, and I officially transitioned from ACing to DPing and opping only about 4 years ago. I tend to go for dark, moody looks. I like silky, creamy lenses, but I do love filtration and haze and all that jazz. I love the Tokinas. They're a beautiful, low-budget cinema lens. Just a wonderful piece of glass, like no breathing, there's no distortion. The wide lenses, like it's just a beautiful lens. I would like to compare them to the Cooks. They're like an affordable, like they're still sharp, but they have some kind of silkiness to them that I really appreciate.
I'm Curtis Boggs. I'm a director of photography and a colorist. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My mother ran the art department ad agency. From the time I was like 5 or 6 years old, you know, I was on commercial sets. Her company did a lot of work for Coca-Cola, so I was, you know, shooting Coke commercials. My mother was an artist and a painter. I was too impatient to be a painter, so I discovered photography. So I shot stills for years. I used to travel for magazines and Caribbean Travel and Life, scuba diving, you know, you know, a lot of adventure travel and underwater magazines, things like that. Lenses is a extremely deep subject. You know, it's, I mean, you talk to 100 different DPs, you're going to get 100 different favorites, right? But I think that's the key. You know, we have some great cameras now, you know, and it doesn't matter what your affiliation is camera-wise. You know, what glass you put on the front of it, you know, that's making your image, you know, and the glass in front of the sensor, and then, of course, whatever you put in front of the sensor. Now, the thing about Tokina lenses, for me, I like lenses that create a lot of depth, that you know, have a 3D quality to them, that will lift your subject off the background, and Tokina is very good for that. I kind of started my relationship with Tokina with the 11 to 20, and absolutely one of my favorite Tokina lenses. As far as, you know, the primes, I usually rent the primes. I don't own a set. It's very, very high on my list. One of the most difficult questions is how to characterize my style, because I think that shifts depending on what the project is. Again, mostly natural light, you know, to me is a very different style. But then if I'm shooting narrative, I like, you know, if I'm shooting some kind of an interesting narrative story, a detective story or something, I'll gravitate more toward, you know, very lit looking sets. You know, I've shot a couple of jobs with the Vista Primes. I shot a thing for Pharrell Williams last year. You know, I chose that glass because of the quality, because, you know, I knew they were sharp enough, and I knew we were in a situation where we really didn't have time to deal with a lot of filtration. And I didn't want to deal with, you know, putting different diffusion on the lenses or any of that. And we basically shot the lenses just as they are, and I got that quality. I got that depth where it, you know, pulled the subject off the background, and it was sharp enough to be perfect for what we were doing. Beautiful glass.